Welcome to the Marlboro County Board of Education regular scheduled meeting, February 3rd, 2025. Flowers, you give me an invocation, please?
Yes, sir. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for this day. We thank you for all the blessings in life. We ask you to just guide us and direct us as we conduct the business of Marlboro County School. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to call the meeting to order.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second. Have a motion carried, start the meeting in order, and a second. Any discussion? Is there any? All in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. Meeting is now called to order. Okay. There's notification to the news media. They've been notified. Now need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Second.
Have any discussion? Is there any? All in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. Agenda has been approved. Public session, we have celebration of the Educational Student of the Month Award.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tiller, Board Chair, Mr. Coachman, board members. I am thrilled to announce Dakota Hubbard as the Good Manners Student of the Month. Dakota demonstrates what it means to be a truly good person by being kind, respectful, and thoughtful. Dakota has a natural gift for brightening the mood of those who are around her. She consistently displays fantastic manners in every interaction, whether greeting her teachers with an enthusiastic smile or holding the door open for a fellow student. Plus, she always remembers to say please and thank you without needing a reminder. In class, Dakota stands out as an outstanding student. She's attentive, never interrupts, and allows everyone to share their thoughts. Her classmates are always met with a friendly smile and an uplifting word of encouragement. She's a good friend and a role model, treating everyone fairly and warmly. Even outside the classroom, Dakota continues to impress us with her politeness. She always puts others first and is quick to offer help when someone needs it. Her cheerful demeanor creates a welcoming atmosphere, whether collaborating on a group project, enjoying recess, or just spending time with her friends. Dakota truly enhances our classroom with her stellar manners, and I am incredibly grateful. Your recognition as Student of the Month is well deserved, Dakota. You're making a significant difference, so keep up the fantastic work. And Dakota was out last week because of the flu, so we called her on Friday, and her mom said she would have her here today. She was at school today, and without further ado, Miss Dakota Hubbard.
Only one. Okay. Next on the agenda, the South Carolina I'm sorry. Yep. One more.
Yes, sir. We got middle school. Good afternoon, Chairman Coachman, Dr. Tiller, Superintendent, and distinguished board members.
It is my honor tonight to present to you Character Education Student of the Month from McCall Elementary Middle School, Mr. Aiden Burr. And what I would like to also say is he's also a proud student of one of our proud educators here in Marlboro County School District. So his mother's also an educator here, so we're excited for that as well. I just want to read a couple of things that his teachers wrote about this young man. The sixth grade team has chosen Aiden Burr as Student of the Month for January for manners. Even under pressure, this kid never fails to give us a yes ma'am or no ma'am. And at most of the time, he's putting the pressure on himself. Aiden is very concerned with his academics as well as his grades. And when he seems to make a mistake, we know right away by the look on his face is very perplexed. In fact, his eyebrows almost do that worry line where they come down and they meet right on the worry line as he displays his disdain for his academic performance. Even these times when asked, is there something he needs help with, he says, no, ma'am, I'll work it out. Determined to learn from his own mistakes, Aiden also displays chivalry as he makes sure to hold open a door for any others that pass through or even move out of the way and allow people to pass by him. And in Miss White's class specifically, just recently in a group assignment, Aiden was asked if he would join another group that was missing a few members. Of course, he responded appropriately, yes, ma'am. Happy to do it. As I observed the groups, I witnessed this child patiently and respectfully leading this group, asking them questions and leading them to the correct answers. The sixth grade team all agree that Aiden is going places in his life, and we hope it is in the classroom one day, teaching those manners he displays and continuing to share his knowledge with others. Whatever he decides to do in his future and wherever he goes, we know that Aiden, without a doubt, will be excellent. For no further ado, may I introduce you to Aiden Burr, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sit. Sit right. Okay. Next on the agenda is Teen Dating Violence Proclamation. We all need to sign that.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much, Dr. Tiller and the board for allowing me to come here today to present this resolution/proclamation. My name is Wendy Woods. I'm the County Service Coordinator at the Marlboro site for the PD Coalition. We have 7 counties where we're represented for the PD Coalition. And particularly, I would like for you all to know that February is Teen Dating Violence Month. And our mission at the PD Coalition, we're a nonprofit organization dedicated to the reduction of sexual assault, family violence, child abuse, and the needs of its victims. In absence of our victims advocate, Katrina Taylor Stevens, and our trauma counselor, Miss Ivy Cook, I stand here on behalf of teen dating violence, and we have a resolution. And for the purposes of time, I will be reading just the second whereas. Okay, it says that Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, and it's called Respect Week. And what we're going to do is read the whereas. Teen dating violence is a serious violation that can affect a young person's safety, development, and sense of comfort, perpetrated by a current or past intimate partner. Dating violence takes many forms, including physical, sexual, emotional abuse, and can occur in person or through electronic communication and social media. Violent dating relationships can lead to depression, anxiety, drug and alcohol use, and thoughts of suicide, and victims may continue to experience detrimental effects throughout their lives.
With all of that being said, we are so happy that the Marlboro County School District counted as a partner in what we're trying to do, reduce family violence in our community. And we see you all as a partner on a daily basis. And we want you all to know we thank you for just having this opportunity to express this. And we're also looking forward to some presentations coming up in the school system on teen dating violence. So we thank you all for your time. We just thank you for just the acknowledgement that this is something that we need to get more information about and more awareness about. So thank you so much.
Ms. Woods, on behalf of the School Board of Education and the district, we'd just like to thank you for what you do for the people in the community.
Thank
It really means a lot that you know that anytime you need our assistance, we're here for you.
you.
And with that being said, we need a approval, a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the proclamation for teen dating violence.
Thank you.
A motion to approve the,
Second.
that's a second. Any discussion? And any, all in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. Proclamation has been approved.
And thank you again very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
On your paper. I think everybody should get look at this.
Yep.
Thank y'all. Wants to get roses? Okay. Sure, the lovely guys.
Thank you.
Can't go wrong. It's important.
Next on the agenda, the South Carolina Association of Education Office Professionals Certified Education Office Employees Certification. Chris?
Good evening. Protocol has already been established. The South Carolina Association of Educational Office Professionals, also known as SCAOP, is dedicated to advancing the contributions of office professionals to educational programs throughout South Carolina. A key benefit of SCAOP membership is the opportunity to pursue your Certified Educational Office Employee Certification, also known as CEOE. This prestigious credential recognizes the dedication and expertise of educational office professionals throughout the state. The rigorous certification process requires candidates to demonstrate competency in 3 areas: education, experience, and association responsibility. It's similar to teacher certifications. You have to maintain the CEOE designation through obtaining your professional development hours, and you have to complete so many hours for this designation. 2 years ago, I earned my CEOE certification, and I am pleased to share that other office professionals throughout the district are currently working towards achieving this distinction. I'm especially proud to announce that Messini Douglas successfully completed the CEOE certification process in November. Please join me in extending a sincere congratulations to Ms. Douglas on this significant accomplishment.
Be bashful now.
In her certificate, it says Marlboro County School District Certificate of Excellence. This certificate is proudly presented to Messini Douglas for earning the CEOE certification through the South Carolina Association of Educational Officers.
All right.
Okay.
Going again or just wait? Well, all aboard? Okay. Put the test of those cameras going.
Yes, sir.
And if I could just add, I'd like to say that I am very proud of Ms. Douglas, and I'm proud of all of our office professionals throughout the district. They take their jobs very serious, and they always go to their conferences for professional development and also to their meetings in Columbia. And I'm very proud of them because it's not something that they have to do, but they do it because they want to be the best they can be. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, School Cleanliness Award. We got winner tonight for the month.
Good evening again. We'd like to acknowledge the tremendous effort of our teams that put the time into maintaining cleaning and welcoming environments in our schools and offices. Each month, a dedicated team evaluates these locations, and the competition is always close. This month, the district office and annex were separated by a mere single point, demonstrating the high standards across the board. A special thank you goes out to Ms. Phyllis Purvis, who consistently goes above and beyond to keep our district office clean. Her dedication is truly appreciated. While Ms. Purvis could not be with us tonight, we'll be sure to celebrate her hard work and contributions. Let's give Ms. Purvis.
Okay. So the district office won. One more.
To the district.
Okay, that's it. All righty. Congratulations to all the awards been given out tonight. Thank you all for your services. Okay, at this time, I need a motion to go into executive session, to discuss personal matters, recommendations, and reports on employee matters and legal matters.
Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
I move we go into executive session for personnel matters, recommendation, report on employee matters and legal matters.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? There any? All in favor, let it be known by raising the right hand. We are now in an executive session. Been approved.
we go into open session.
Have a motion, go back in open session. Have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Let raise your right hand. Board meeting is now back in the open session. Okay. No decision was made and no action was taken in executive session. Okay, I need approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from January the 13th, 2025, regular scheduled meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes, January 13, 2025, regular scheduled meeting. Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, it has that Reginald Gayman was present versus Angela Galloway. That should be changed.
Okay, we need to change that on the agenda.
It sure does.
Make that update.
I
That
didn't
is
even notice
incorrect.
that. It will be corrected, I'm sure.
Thank you, Ms. Galloway. All right, public comments.
I read.
No public comments at this time.
Ms. Coach.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Ms.
So we need to approve the amended minutes.
I move
Change.
that we amend the minutes by erasing Reginald Gayman's name and adding moi, Angela Galloway, as trustee, on the minutes for January 13th, 2025.
I second.
You have a second on the amendment? We'll vote on the amendment first. All in favor of the amendment change? Let it be known by raising your right hand. And it's
And Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the amended agenda.
amended
Amended
agenda.
minutes.
Minutes, excuse me, they said.
Minutes of the amended agenda. You have a motion, do I have a second?
Minutes.
Amended
And I'll
minutes.
second that.
Any discussion? We straight on that now? All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. The amended approval minutes, the agenda has been adopted. Okay. Public comment? None? Okay, board member powers and duties and board members' authority and responsibilities, policy BBA, policy BBAA, and policy BBAA-R.
Mr. Chair, I asked that those items be placed on the board, on the board's agenda. Because, sometimes we are on the board and even though years go by, and the only time a lot of us really have to do this, mandated by law, is when we are first elected to a board. These are
Right.
some of the things that we are taught at new board members orientation. But as time go by, sometimes some of the things inside of there kind of slip our minds sometime. And I really wanted these policies brought back up. And I think it'd be a good idea periodically to bring up policies that state roles of boards and our other policies also, so that we can take a look at it, so that we won't be so far out of bounds. A lot of times, our meeting is a public meeting, and our meeting is broadcasted pretty much across the state, because I actually get calls from people from both ways, Columbia, sometimes Charleston, different people who review our board meetings. And sometimes they bring to my attention things that we may have overlooked, or we may have overstepped our bounds inside of a meeting sometimes.
That's true.
Because sometime in there, as we look over there, our roles and our responsibilities is clearly stated in our policies. Whereas then the number one thing is making sure that we have a superintendent in place that can carry out our policies as we have stated them. And the roles of the superintendent and the board very much different. And sometimes we can get bogged down too much in the day-to-day operation of what the administration should be doing at schools and what the superintendent should be doing. Because sometimes we put our hand in something, and if it go wrong, there's no one to come back to it, because it was our footprint. We serve as a quasi judicial, meaning that any appeals based on anything that happened in the district got to come to us. So we can't be the one initiating this stuff, and then if it don't go right, and it's the district fault, and we might want to blame superintendent for it, but it's our fault because we was the one that put our fingerprint on it. And sometimes we shouldn't be getting so far into it that I want to check what the principal is doing at their school. It's okay for us to come as a visitor at a school, but when we come individually, we have no more rights than a parent that come.
That's true.
Unless the board approve for us to come on any other type of mission. Because when you go in, we can't order the principal, teachers, or any person to do anything. That's the superintendent's job. And I think we need to make sure that we do that as a board, that we know exactly what it is that we're supposed to be doing. Because sometimes we put our hands in it,
And go overboard.
right, we might go overboard. And the thing of it too is, in saying things and doing things without the superintendent knowing about it. Because sometimes if you do that, you kind of like take yourself out of it. And I'm saying this too for the public so that they'll hear this. Our job is to set policy, set the budget. The superintendent's job is to run the district. I can't tell the superintendent make recommendations on who we're gonna hire, and she bring it to the board, and it's up or down vote when we get back in here with the recommendations of the superintendent. We don't tell the superintendent, okay, I want you to hire my brother or my cousin. That don't work it don't work like that. And when parents have problems with the schools, we try to ask them to go through the teachers, through the principals, then to the superintendent before it come to us. And that should be the way it's set up. None of us on the board should be exactly going in public unless it's just your opinion. You don't lose your right as an individual, but you need to let it be known to the public that that's your personal opinion.
That's right.
It's not the opinion of the board whenever you're talking to someone in the community about the school district. If you're speaking out in the public, it's your opinion, but it's not that of the board. And don't say the board said, because everything the board said need to be said in here. It only count when we're here in this room with a quorum. That's when we make up the board, and that's when we do things and it counts for it's going out like that. And I just thought bringing these policies up, I think it's a good idea, and that we do that. And any board member, if you think there's something in these policies that we need to change, we can bring them up for review, and we can add or subtract what we think, as long as it's in line with the state law, because these policies are written in accordance with state laws.
Mhm.
And they've been vetted pretty good by School Board Association and some attorneys. So,
That's correct. And I agree with Mr. Tom 100%. And the biggest thing for us as board members, a lot of times people in the district, they look at us and think that we can do things that we cannot do, things that we don't have the power to do. Our job is, like I said, policies and procedures, balance the budget and work with the superintendent. But also, as board members and representing the district, we owe it to our people to serve them as well, because they're the one that elected us. But you know that when someone tells you something, talk to you in the street somewhere, you bring that back to the district, to that personnel, and then we can act that as a board, as a whole. That's the biggest thing. And another thing is that as a board member, you want your district personnel to feel comfortable with you, not afraid of us. And sometimes it intimidates an administrator, a teacher, a principal if we come in and ask them questions, and we very well can get in trouble that way. So we should be there in support and to visit and to see what our children are doing. And if we feel like anything needs to be done to help, when we do visit, we bring it back to the superintendent, and we all can work on it together. Because the only way we're going to be able to be successful in this district is we all work together. And we want the people to feel at ease when they see us as board members, because we have the right to visit schools, and that's part of our duties, is to be the good stewards and take care of the district and the people that put us in place to do so. But at the same time, we need to be supportive to those in the district office area and let the superintendent do her job and their part, and them not have to worry about having a controlling, what they call a micromanaging board, coming to try to do their job and get in the way. And I feel like we got a board that everybody understands that we're going to do the right thing. I just want to put everybody's mind at ease, and And, you know, serving as board chair, that's how I want everybody to feel if I come visit your school or your district office. I'm not there to bother anybody, you know. I'm just making sure that everything is all right. And if you need our assistance as a board member, that, you know, just let us know, we can assist you. So that's the type of atmosphere we need.
Yes, and also board and superintendent relation. I would like to just say this too. I think we have a strong board, and I think we have a good relationship with our superintendent. But I also think we need to allow the superintendent leeway to do what she's been hired to do. And as board members, we support superintendent 100% in what she do to try to move this district forward. And I think that's what we need to do as that, and so that the public do know that we do support our superintendent.
Any other comments on that policy?
As elected officials for the school board, we have a duty to represent the people, the citizens of Marlboro County, as well as the students of our school system. At any point in time, for anyone that doesn't know this on the board, I'm going to speak it out. At any point in time, if there is a concern that is major in your mind, that your people in the county has told you about or recommended to you something about, you have the right to call the chairman and ask for a special call meeting to address that concern. So if we have any concerns, you have the right to call your chairman and ask for that. Now, saying all that, I prefer just to handle it at the regular school meetings.
That's right.
You know, saying all that, but what I'm trying to say is, if you have any problems, anybody in the county with city, I mean with the city, but anybody in the county as far as concerns, that's what we're here for, and that is part of our board duties to represent the citizens of Marlboro County as well as the students. So as I said, if there's any concern, please bring it to the chairman, and the chairman will call a special call meeting if it's needed.
Yep.
We would prefer to handle it not, but if he needed, so be it.
And the only way I'm going to have an emergency call meeting, if we do have an emergency call meeting, it's going to be an emergency. A special call meeting is something that we have to address immediately. But I wouldn't even do that until I consult with the superintendent what the concern is that was brought to me by a board member, and we can work together on that issue to make that decision for a special call meeting. So that's a good thing, Ms. Driggers. Like I say, we are here for the citizens, that they have to be an emergency. Good discussion. Anybody else? All right. Thank you for bringing that up, Ms.
And with that, I'm going to ask y'all to excuse me. I have to go tend to a sick baby.
Thank you, Ms. Pruitt. Have a nice night.
Take care.
Okay, superintendent's report. District Continuous Improvement Plan, Dr. Battle.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's optimistic.
At your seat in the blue folder, you have the paper copies of everything that was sent to you electronically. Now,
Right.
sometimes you would like to see it, a hard copy, than reading off of the computer. So these are all of the paper copies of everything.
It's the entire plan, right?
Pardon me?
This entire plan.
It's several plans.
Yeah,
The first
okay.
plan that you have on the right-hand side is going to be the Marlboro County School District Continuous Improvement Plan. We refer to it as the CIP plan. The State Department refers to it that way as well. As an underperforming district, Marlboro County School District must develop an improvement plan that outlines how the district will support the schools as they implement their plans for improvement. The South Carolina State Department of Education has provided the district with a transformation coach whose role is to assist in the implementation of our plans for improvement. There is no money attached to this for the district continuous improvement plan, but there is for the schools. District level administration and the curriculum division support are shown in the plan that you have at your table and that was sent to you electronically. The major goal for the district's plan is to ensure that all activities included in the school plans are implemented with fidelity and that evaluation and/or adjustments of the activities take place. This also includes reporting to the South Carolina Department of Education as outlined in the plans. The plans are monitored every 60 days with the monitoring tool uploaded to the South Carolina Department of Education contact. On the plan that was sent to you electronically, you do see money in the column. Those are funds that are directly allocated to the schools and not to the district. These plans have to be approved by our State Department contact people in the Office of,
Office of School Transformation.
thank you. In the Office of School Transformation, we can only use these funds in the way that they allow us to use them. I think the last time I was up, I talked about the fact that we had a lot of professional development because that's what they were approving. So you'll see professional development, you'll see the after-school programs, you'll see a lot of some materials, but the majority of it is professional development. So we work closely with that team in the Office of Transformation to come up with these plans. We're asking tonight for your approval of the district continuous improvement plan, which, as I said, is just a mirror of what the schools are going to do and how we are supporting the schools as they work through and implement their continuous improvement plans.
These figures that are tied to what you're presenting to us, will they fluctuate at all, or is there pretty set and grade?
It decreases every year.
Increases.
Those amounts decrease every year. And as a matter of fact, we have a federal programs workshop/conference that we have to go to in order to see what the new changes and cuts might be.
So this total at the bottom may change next year and actually go down, is what you just said.
It has changed. Each year it goes down.
Okay, all right.
And the goal is always to come off of these plans. And once we come off the plans, there is no money.
And there are no edits that can be made, Ms. Battle?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Are there any edits that can be made?
Edits?
Yes, ma'am.
The edits come straight from the State Department.
Gotcha.
So they tell us what we must change or if we must change anything, if we need to increase in an area, if an activity is not allowed, that type thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Another discussion? Need a motion to approve the continuous improvement plan?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the district continued improvement plan.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? If any, all in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. Continuous improvement plan has been adopted.
Okay.
Thank you.
What you have left in your packet is going to be the school renewal plans. The school renewal plans are constructed off of the district strategic plan. So each schools committee met to discuss the performance goals that pertain to their sites. They also discussed the alignment to the district strategic plan, since all plans are based directly on the district strategic plan. They're just tailored to fit each school. As with the district strategic plan, these are not new school renewal plans, but are updates to what has already been approved by the school board and the State Department of Education. Each year, as with the district strategic plan, the schools have to go through and decide what it is that they have met, where they still have work to do, and if there's anything that needs to be deleted or added. Principals are here today to answer any specific questions you may have, but we're asking the school board for approval on the school's plans as well.
Okay, these were not sent to us electronically.
Yeah.
They work?
Yeah.
School renewal plan too?
Old board pack.
I guess I missed that. Okay. Sorry.
So
I saw
everything that,
this one, the turnaround, the one you
Yeah.
sent in here, but I must have missed the others. Okay.
Have a motion on the school renewal plan.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the school renewal plans.
Have a second?
I second.
Was there a second? Any more other discussion?
Yeah, I just have one question. So I was looking throughout all of them, and I was wondering if it's any way to add any more social emotional learning activities within the plan?
We can add some more social emotional learning activities,
Okay,
and then we'll have to include it in the budget
gotcha.
because there's no money right now for
Gotcha.
that, and none of the federal funds
Mhm.
can be used for social emotional learning.
Oh, wow.
They will not let us use those for social emotional learning, so that has to come from general funds. Now,
And-
we do have our social workers that go in to do the social emotional learning, and they have a curriculum that they follow in all of our schools.
Mhm.
Did you see that in there?
Yeah, I had a note on here, the school guidance counselor roles in schools. And then one question I did have is, are any of them licensed to give therapy, individual, family, or group therapy?
To my knowledge, not, but I will have to check that. Ms. Hazel Ellison is not with us tonight, and she can answer that question better than I can.
Or if not, I think, do we have a partnership with mental health?
We have a partnership with Care South,
Okay.
and Care South comes in to provide that at some of our schools. And I don't have that list of which schools they serve right now, but we have an MOA with Care South
Okay.
for that.
Okay. Good.
In lieu of what I just told you, that I didn't see it, this follows our district strategic plan also,
Correct.
does it not? I'm
Yes.
taking your word for this.
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, good enough.
Any other discussion, question? Have a motion and a second, no other discussion? All in favor for the approval of the school renewal plan? Let me know by raising your right hand. It has been approved.
Thank you.
Before you leave,
Yes.
can I back up just a smidgen? Last meeting, we had a talk about some new books, school book purchase.
Yes,
And we approved that.
you
Were you
did.
able to get those books yet?
Mr. Black is working on them. The system, we had to send it in. The person that was responsible at the state level was out, but they are in now, and we received something that said we were free to order. And we went ahead and let Mr. Black know that, and knowing Mr. Chuck Black, he got on it. So I'm sure that we have the order in. Now I'll have to check with him to see if the books have been received at the school yet.
What I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was something that we needed.
It was
We
something
needed
that
soon.
missed adoption. Yes.
So what is the time frame now? Did you say?
Normally, once everything is approved and they put it in, they normally do a quick turnaround. I need to check with Mr. Black to see if he has gotten those. The textbook
you would,
coordinator
bring
for
it
the
up.
district is not with me tonight, so I'm not sure of that particular answer yet.
Okay. And like I said, it just seemed like it was something that was needed,
It is.
and we needed to do it quickly. And I just wanted to make sure that it was being done. And it sounds like we're still behind the eight ball a little bit with it. So
Yeah. Mr. Black is normally right on top of that. So
Okay.
he has not contacted me, so I would bet that he already has those books in. But I will
Again, if
find
you
that
give us
answer
an
and get it
update, I
to you.
appreciate
I
it.
sure will.
All right. School, I read a test data from the principal.
Good evening. Tonight, I stand before you to give you an update on our iReady data for Bennettsville Primary. At this point in the school year, our students have taken diagnostic assessments in the fall, and they've also taken diagnostic assessments in the winter. And the iReady is an instructional resource that we use to supplement what we're doing academically with our students. Okay, so these first two slides that we have is an overall student performance. With iReady, it breaks down looking at how the students performed on their diagnostic to determine if they are mid, above grade level, early grade level, 1 grade level below, 2 grade levels below, or 3 or more grade levels below. And so those first two rows at the top from the beginning to the middle of the year, we want to see those numbers go up. So the percentages that you'll see there, we have made some growth based on our beginning of the year assessment to our middle of the year assessment, and the bottom two rows, you will see that we want to always see that those numbers are decreasing because we want to decrease the number of students that are below grade level. And so in reading, this is a snapshot of how our students did at the beginning of the year, what they did at the middle of the year. And we'll talk about some things that we have put in place to help them move. So we have that for reading. You'll see that based on the results, we are showing areas of improvement from fall to winter. Mr. Davis? Okay. Also, you'll see here in math, again, we want to see the top two rows continue to move up and the bottom two rows to continue to decrease. And again, just looking at how our students performed on those two assessments, that you will see that we are making some progress as it relates to our student performance at Binsford Primary, okay? The next slide, you will see we talk about growth with our students. And with our ready, we look at what we call their stretch growth and their typical growth. And so in reading and math, if you go to the next slide, you're going to see for each grade level, we looked at the percentage of students who met what we call our typical growth and the percentage of our students who met their stretch growth. And this was based on the winter diagnostic assessment that we took. And I want you to keep in mind that those numbers or the percentages that you see, that indicates the number of students who have already met their end of the year typical growth and stretch growth. So we already have some students who've already met that typical growth point and their stretch growth point, okay, based on the fall to winter. Go ahead.
Those are numbers 18, 16, 25, 41 is a percentage.
A percentage of the kindergarten students. 18% of them have already met their end of the year typical growth. Okay? All right. We also have that same presentation or slide for math. You will see that we have in kindergarten at 32%, and for each grade level, we broke down to determine what percentage of those students have already met the end of the year stretch and typical growth, okay? We also started to look at our instructional usage, what are the percentage of time that our students are spending in reading and math. And this is just an average broken down by hours. But Mr. Davis, if you go to the next slide for us, our rating requires that our students have a minimum score of 67% on their individual lessons. So once the students take their diagnostic assessments, what it does is it gives them an individual pathway. So those students have some activities or what we call those lessons that they're working towards helping them meet their typical or stretch growth. And what we did was we looked at those lessons, and at Binsford Primary, 72% of our students have passed those lessons with a score between 70 and 100%, and that is a breakdown by each grade level that we have. We did the exact same thing in math. Again, we look at the lessons that they have. Those students, or the percentage indicates the number of lessons and the average that each one of those grade levels have, making a score of 70 to 100% on the individual lessons. Again, the lessons are tailored toward their individual needs to help them meet their stretch and typical growth goals. So as we dug into the data, there were some things that we saw. First of all, overall, looking at our students in kindergarten through third grade, we noticed that on the assessments, they were broken down by domains, and overall high frequency words was an area of strength for us across the school. When we looked at that diagnostic assessment, we saw that an area for us, or an area of concern that we really wanted to focus on, was the area of phonics. I will say that in the fall, that was also an area of concern for us. But if you see the note there, we went from 23% of them at 2 or more grade levels below. So we've decreased that number from 23% to 15%, and we're still working towards making sure that we are continuing to decrease that number. In third grade, our third grade students in the spring will take the SC Ready assessment. If our students are continuing on the track that they are and meeting their typical growth, we are projecting that 40% of those third grade students in reading will be at the level of proficiency on SC Ready. And when you compare that to where our third graders were last year, it was 24%. So we're looking to continue to move that number on our SC Ready assessment. Here is just a chart that breaks down each one of those areas or domains of strength and domains of concern for each of our grade levels. We looked at what are the areas that our students are doing well in based on the assessment and what areas that we really want to make sure that we're focusing on. And you will see some commonalities there, like in kindergarten and in the second grade, phonemic awareness was an area of strength, but when you look at second and third, vocabulary or high frequency words in kindergarten. When it comes to math, we also looked at, well, what are our students based on their already data? What are they areas of strength for us? And that was overall numbers and operations. When we looked at the percentage of students who scored 2 or more grade levels below in the domain of measurement and data. Projected proficiency for our third grade students only. If we continue on the path that we're on and our students are meeting their typical growth, we are projected 47% of our third grade students to be on track towards proficiency compared to 22% last year on third grade SC Ready. Again, we did the same thing for our math data, looking at each one of those domains and determining what are some things that we need to put in place to help us continue to grow in those areas. Ms. Davis. This is a chart that shows the projected proficiency in reading, the information that I just gave you. Again, if you're looking at typical growth and our students are continuing to make that typical growth, then you will see that we will be projected to have students who are scoring on SC Ready for reading, 40% of those students compared to the 24% last year on our report card. And if we are making progress towards our stretch growth and our students are continuing to move beyond the typical growth, we will be at 46%. In math, Mr. Davis. In math, if you look at projected proficiency, we are projecting 47% if our students are meeting their typical growth goal compared to 22% on our state report card last year. And then if they are meeting their stretch growth, it will be 54% of our students who are projected proficiency. So our goal is to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to make sure that our kids are reaching their typical growth goal and not just staying at typical growth, but moving beyond that to their stretch growth. So these are just a few examples of how our students and teachers are engaged in iReady. First of all, our teachers are using the information to help develop those small group instructional plans for our students. It also allows teachers to focus on specific areas to be able to help support our students. Our teachers and students are also keeping track. They are taking ownership of the data. So if you see down in the bottom corner, you'll see an example of a bulletin board that's on display in our building where our kids, once they're reaching a certain amount of lessons, we put it up there as something to recognize them. In the middle, you're going to see an example from a classroom of the students' data notebooks that are accessible for students. And over on the right, that's an example of one page out of that student notebook where she actually colors every time she completes a lesson. So again, it give our students the ownership so that they will be able to continue to progress. As it relates to our next steps, we're using that information to develop the small group instruction based on those domains. We also conduct what we call the universal screeners, and that's for students in K through 2. Once we do the universal screener, it also identifies students or flag those students who need some additional screenings in their tier 2 instruction if needed. We're continuing to complete activities based on their individual needs. Ongoing professional development is one of the things that we're continuing to do through our PLCs. We're going to continue to make sure that we celebrate and recognize our student growth and their achievement. I want to make sure that they continue to take ownership of their data through the use of their data notebooks. Also, we will continue to use a resource at Bennettsville Primary that we call UFly that is helping to develop their phonics and phonemic awareness skills, and that is something that we do every day in kindergarten through third grade. We also want to make sure that we're using the information and the data to provide targeted interventions for our students. Our teachers are utilizing what they call the toolbox on iReady, which will provide them with lessons for specific areas that they need. And then also we're going to make sure that we continue the collaboration among our staff during the regular school day with our after-school staff, who's also helping to support what we're doing during the regular day in our after-school program. And you'll see an example of our teachers in a PLC with some training on iReady. Any questions? Overall, we are able to take this information to show how our students are moving, and we're continuing to make progress, and we want to continue to make sure that we're building on what we're doing. We do have some dedicated staff members at Bennettsville Primary who are working really hard.
So based on the numbers that you've shared with us, it looks like it's very positive numbers going forward. So based on those numbers, the school board can expect to see a much better report card grade with South Carolina. We
Absolutely.
hope.
Yes, sir. And keep in mind that for Bennettsville Primary, we will only see those SE ready scores for grade 3.
Just
But
grade 3.
if we're building them at kindergarten and pre-K and moving them up, by the time they get to third grade, we should be able to see that progress.
I understand it's just third grade, but any positive movement is what we're
Absolutely. Growth is growth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would like to say amazing job. I was reading about the iReady program, and it seems like, and make sure you tell me if I'm right or incorrect, but it asks questions, and then depending on how they answer, it either give them easier questions or harder questions.
Absolutely. It's adaptable to that individual student's needs. So as they are working through the lessons and how they're answering those questions, it will either give them something that will challenge them, or if it's too hard, it will put it down on their level, because we want to make sure that the students are getting what they need at that level. You know, we have a class of 22, but all 22 were all on a different level. So it is individualized for individual students.
And so I noticed also was saying website encourage parents, guardians to assist the kids. Are there workshops to assist the parents, especially if there's grandparents raising children, grandchildren, of how to use this and how to be assistance to the children?
Yes, ma'am. And we also have our parenting meetings at the very beginning of the year when we started, because iReady was brand new to Marlboro County.
Okay.
That was one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we share with our parents so that they can help support this process with us. And we will continue to do that throughout our parenting meetings. Also, when we have parent conferences, so when we have what we call SIT meetings, this is another piece of data that we're able to pull and talk to our parents about. And those data notebooks, you know, the students actually can pull those out and even have conversations with their own parents about
Good.
what they're doing.
I just wanted Mrs. McCall to come up because she is the district level person that is responsible for our ready, and she can talk to you about those parent things. Also, Mr. Driggers, I just wanted to remind everyone that at the primary school, they don't get a report card. So they don't get a report
Not even for
card.
third grade? Okay,
No.
okay, sorry, excuse me.
That's
I
okay.
thought we did
All
get
our
it for the
other
third
schools.
grade. But-
They take SC Ready in third grade,
Okay.
but they do not receive a state report card because most of the state report card is based on growth. And so they have to show growth from one grade level to the next. So their scores basically affect Bennettsville Intermediate School more so.
So
than
it's my
Bennettsville.
next group of presenters that I'm gonna be watching closely. Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay, I can do that.
Great job.
But that's still good to know that we got growth there.
Yeah, it is. I did think we'd get it to third grade.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Tiller. I'm here to present the iReady data for Clio Elementary School. In front of you, you will see our overall student performance for reading. But before I go on, I want to make you aware of some information you'll see in my next few slides. You will see again the typical growth and stretch growth. Typical growth says how a student will do with no interventions in play, basically just a regular school year of instruction. Stretch growth highlights the movement that a child will make due to the interventions that take place in the classroom and the different things that the school does to move that child. And the stretch growth will highlight how that child should move towards being on grade level or above grade level. So when you see our typical growth and stretch growth, typical says without any interventions how that child would do. Stretch growth highlights with the interventions in play, with the different measures that the school puts into play, how that child should grow towards being at grade level or above. But again, in front of you is the winter to fall diagnostic. You can see that we have made movement in terms of our students who are 2 or more grade levels below. We have been able to move those students at the bottom and continue to move students to being on grade level or above. I'm sorry, let me go back. Again, you will see the same thing for math. Math has been more of a struggle for us, but we will highlight the things that we're doing to continue to move the needle for math. But we are finding solace in the fact, again, we've been able to move students who are 2 or more grade levels below and continue to move kids or students closer to being at grade level or above. Again, in front of you, you will see our student growth target from our diagnostic. You see our percentage meeting typical growth. And again, this is mid-year. So this is telling you where our kids are right now in the middle of the school year. We've got some places where we've got a lot of growth and some places where we don't have as much. You will see kindergarten the first. They are still learning how to read, but they have made so much progress in terms of students who are again at stretch growth. So if they had to test, 53% of our kids will be at grade level or above grade level. The other metric that you'll see to the far right is percentage of improved placement. That is big for us as well because in terms of SC Ready, you get points for growth. So as you can see, we have students, even though they still may not be at grade level, they are getting close to their grade level and making growth. So they move 1 grade band or 2 grade bands for some of our students, again, moving them closer to being at grade level or above. And that is for reading. Again, the same for math. As you can see, as I stated earlier, math, we have realized we have more work to do with because we've put a lot of time over the last few years with ELA. So this year we've put some more measures in place to try to bring math where we need it to be, knowing that we will get the percentage points for growth for math for this year. In front of you is our reading proficiency projections. So again, spells out right now if we had to test where our kids would fall in our mind in terms of testing. You see if a child makes typical growth, if a child makes stretch. Again, what we've told our people is where we want our kids at the end of the year is to reach stretch because stretch would put them at or above grade level. So our push is to try to get our kids to stretch because if we can get them to stretch, that means we have a greater chance of them coming in meets or exceeds in terms of testing. Again, you'll see the same for math. Oh, let me go back. I'm sorry. I apologize. All right. So in front of you again is the instructional usage for reading. It highlights how many lessons students have passed. We ask our students to pass 2 lessons per week, 2 in math, 2 in ELA. Our minutes are over. and they ask us to come in about 60 minutes for iReady. We are over, but we are over because it is one of our interventions that we use in small groups. We also, for the first 30 minutes in the morning before instruction starts, use iReady because it is working on their path. So each individual student is working on their area of need, and we also utilize it in after school. So that's why our numbers are high. But as you can see, besides our kindergarten, all of our passage rates are above 60% in reading. Same for math. Again, our kids lean more on the reading because they're more comfortable with the reading. So you'll see why our numbers in terms of minutes are skewed. But what we have looked at is the passage rate. That means kids are making movement because they're able to take the assessments and do well and then move on to the next thing in their path. Actionable insights. In front of you is a current placemat distribution, and it shows right now where our kids are if we were having to test. At the bottom where you see where it says from 19, from 23, that is where we were when the school year started. Above, you'll see we've gone from 19% who were 3 or more grade levels behind to 10. We've gone from 23% who were 2 or more grade levels behind to 14. So we've managed to shrink the number of students who are at the bottom, as well as continue to move kids to being at or above grade level. And as you can see, we went from 42% who were 2 or 3 grade levels behind to at 24%, and still not happy with that because we don't want any kids to be 3 or more grade levels behind, but we are making progress at the mid-year point. Again, this highlights where our kids scored in terms of the domains. You see phonological awareness, phonics, high frequency words, vocabulary, comprehension, literature, and informational text. We will give you some information about what the strengths and the areas of need were here shortly. Strengths we highlighted were phonics, high frequency words, comprehension / literature. Students showed growth with reading areas improving again from 46% to 25% from fall to winter. And based on an analysis of student data, the most significant gains were with vocabulary, with 67% of our students performing at or above grade level. Area of growth, we highlighted most of our students struggle with comprehension, specifically informational text. And we'll highlight in a little bit what we're doing to address that. Our reading plan to address comprehension / informational text, we are making that a focus in our small groups. Our teachers utilize the iReady tools for instruction, which spells out what specific needs those students would have. In groups, they also work in their MyPath. Again, that's where we highlighted they're working specifically on their area of need. We have worked with our staff about making sure they have instructional strategies in place, building prior knowledge, explicit vocabulary, be it content and academic. The children need to know the academic vocabulary. So we've stressed the children knowing the academic vocabulary, but us referencing it when we're doing instruction. Annotation of text, modeling and using visuals, and making sure the students can determine what the text is asking. We've also worked on increased stamina in reading, and to make sure that we keep the information in front of our kids. Teachers have a spiral review of comprehension in the morning. So when they're going about their instruction each morning, that is in their morning review for students to look at comprehension. Again, actionable items for math. The percentage of students who are 2 to 3 grade levels behind has decreased from 43% to 23%. Based on the analysis of the data, we see that the struggle that students have is geometry. However, the strength that they had was number and operations, and you'll see that here in a second. Yes, sir.
This is what you're hoping to attain.
This is what we have now.
You have now, okay. All right.
So right now, if Our data, we went from 43% who were 3 or more grade levels behind to right now we're at 27.
Okay.
Still not where I want it, but that's progress at the mid-year point.
16 points.
Again, the items that it breaks down to is number and operations, algebraic thinking, measurement and data, and geometry. Our strengths are numbers and operation and algebraic thinking. Students have shown growth in this area, again, with a decrease of 43% to 27%. And in the area of growth that we've highlighted is geometry. Again, our plan that we have in place, geometry is an issue because it is taught at the end of the year. We assess it now, but kids have not seen it. So what we are doing is we're incorporating it in small groups. So we're not waiting until the end and might miss it. We're teaching it right now in small groups. It's taught in the morning review. Again, in our small groups, we utilize the I-rated tools for instruction, make sure students are on their path. Instructional strategies, we have talked to our teachers ad nauseum about making sure they use manipulatives, making sure they provide a clear model and visuals. Again, harping on that academic and content vocabulary, making sure there are real world connections to what they're teaching in math, making sure we give good academic feedback. And one of the most important things I think in terms of math is letting the kids have productive struggle. You can't just do math in isolation. They have to practice it. They have to do it. And then based on the struggles that they're having, that teacher can clear up the misconceptions that are in play. And lastly, a daily spiral of the content. In terms of what our teachers and students do, teachers and students have data conversations. Our students keep data folders. Every classroom has a data wall. We have a school data room. And again, teachers had to give us data projections. Right now, how you think your kids will score. And for the kids that you felt like may not be where you want, what are you doing to remedy that? Our next steps, we have weekly PLC meetings where we talk about the data, we talk about our next steps, where we analyze the data and then determine what we're going to do to remedy the needs that our kids may have. We do not try to wait on our ready assessment time. We do 10-day assessment so we can have a snapshot of where our kids are right now so we can make a determination whether we move forward or whether we stay where we are and make sure that kids understand the concepts we're teaching. Weekly walkthroughs and feedback every week. Myself and my assistant principal get in classrooms. We provide feedback, but we also go back and talk to teachers to try to make sure that they know the areas that we see that are working and the areas that we need to continue to refine. We do peer observations, and that is within the school. We go to other schools and outside the district to let our teachers see instruction that we think will help them to continue moving the needle. We provide coaching cycles. What that means is myself, my assistant principal, and my reading coach, we go into classrooms. If we have to model, we model. If we have to co-teach, we co-teach. But we make sure that we're doing everything we can to help teachers continue to get better. We provide our staff and our students with surveys so that we can know how to best service them. We have 2 quarterly meetings where we look at, again, data. The teachers provide us data, and they have to, in turn, while we're doing their data conferences, they hold their data conferences with students so they can tell students where they are and highlight where the students have gotten to the goals they've set. And again, we utilize our staff meetings as a way to talk about data and continue to do PD. So all of our staff have to present their data in front of their colleagues and talk about the next steps, and they get feedback from the group. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I understand what you're saying, and I hope we're on the right track to do what we're doing. There's a lot of gray hair on my head, so school has changed from the time I went to now. But you made a comment earlier, 24% still at 3 years or more. I can't imagine how a 5th grader can have a reading skills of a second grader, how did he get to the fifth grade? And I'm not challenging anything, but I know what you're doing, and I hope we're doing it right. But it just boggles my mind how a fifth grader can read at a second grade level. How did he get or she get to the fifth grade? And that's all. I'm not condemning. I'm not doing anything. But that's just an observation of mine. I just don't understand it.
One of the things that we are doing at Clio, not just in grades 3 through 5, but we are trying to tighten up tier 1 instruction K through 5. So the thing that I can tell you is what we'll be doing and what we'll continue to do is make sure that we provide top-notch tier 1 instruction at every grade level so that we won't have kids in the future that are 2 to 3 grade levels behind.
I understand that, and I commend you for it.
Yes, sir.
Just making an observation, like
Yes,
I said.
sir.
It just boggles my mind how he got to the fifth grade, or she got to the fifth grade, when she can only read at the second grade level. So,
And that was saying what Mr. Driggs was saying. I know we got to realize too, just what in 2019 to 2020, we still were in COVID, weren't in school, weren't had in school classes. Is that right? When did we come back to school? 21?
Yeah.
2020, 2021. So 18, 19 lost 2 years of instruction out of school, and those are the kids that are probably in the fifth grade now. So that goes to show you the importance of being in the classroom and having the classrooms open for the children to get the instruction. But I agree that's a hard pill to swallow. But
yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow. Like I said,
it's reality.
again, I got a lot of gray hair, so I had summer school. I had people that failed grades and came back. It was in a class with different people. I'm just saying, it's a different world. I know, but it's just boggles my mind. But
I think, Mr. Driggers, I do think, like you said, it's a different day.
It's a different day.
Because, we getting test data from a single test that they've taken, and a child may pass.
Perhaps we need to regress
every test in the classroom and flunk that test. So I worked at the prison. We got plenty of people 4th, 5th grade left and they grown. So
okay.
Good evening. I'll start with the first slide right here. We just recently had our second quarter awards day. Before we did our winter iReady assessment, we had a pep rally, making sure that the students knew where they are, where we wanted them to be. So we only have 2 grade levels, 4th and 5th. So we took the 2 highest growth out of 4th for math and ELA, and also for 5th for math and reading. And so their name were put into a pool. We did have 2 students, one who increased by 111 points, and one who increased by 102 points from fall to winter. So the girl on the far right, she won the bicycle for the most growth in iReady. So I just wanted to start with that. And it incentivized the kids to do their very best. And I will say, out of 249 students, we only had 6 students that didn't have any growth, but all of our other students had some growth on this assessment. This is our iReady math performance. The goal is to get our students out of the red. And if you can look from fall to winter, we are doing that. Our students, they're moving. You see circled at the bottom, we do have 93 students. You can see the percentages, but I wanted to highlight the students. It's good to see the percentages, but if you put them when we're looking at the students. So in the fall, we had 75 students who were 3 or more grade levels behind. And winter, those students are down to 53. But if you look at 4th grade at the top, well, if you look at math at the top, we are moving the red from the top. The red is going to yellow, but most importantly, we are moving them to green, where they are at grade level or above grade level. And so that's the key for us this year, is to move them out of the red, because on the report card, we get no points for red. So we want them in the yellow and also the green. iReady math performance by grade level. We see 4th grade, from the fall versus fourth grade winter. Again, we're trending in the right direction. We're moving them out of the red into yellow and to green. And we noticed that our fourth grade students, they're moving them more to yellow. Our fifth grade students are moving more to green. However, we are trending in the right direction. We're getting our students what they need and where we want them to be. And a lot of this, if you look at the yellow, we go in and we look at where those students are struggling and what areas they are struggling. And that's where we pull out our small groups. We focus on this in our after-school programs, and also we use our 95% in our after-school program to target that instruction so we can target and make sure that our students are getting exactly what they need. Okay, this is our I read and math domains from fall to winter, and you can see with that, this right here is more for our teachers. It kind of let our teachers know what our students need, where our students are, how they can go in and target those specific areas for our students. And if they look at it for the fall versus the winter, we did good with numbers and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, but the measurement and geometry, we're just getting there. So that shows us optimism because they've done good on it without us being there yet. So I read in math projected proficiency for winter, and as my colleague spoke earlier, if we were to take I read it now, typical growth is on the top. We did nothing with that child. Years growth, years worth of work, we have 35%, but with that stretch growth, with our interventions in place, we're looking at a 48% passage rate. I read in math, our actionable insights, we have 40 plus students who moved up from 2 or more grade levels below. Fifth grade has more students in green and on grade level. Data shows more students are on grade level in all domains based on winter scores. Domain strength is in numbers and operations, which was taught in the fall. And our weakest domain for winter is geometry, and we're teaching that currently. Our ready performance fall 24. Again, if you look at the top, when we took it in the fall versus the winter, we are trending again in the right direction. If you look at the bottom, we moved 75 students. Now we're down to 55. But the encouraging part, the green, we're moving them to the green. We have 14 students versus 6. And in the fall, we only had 18 students, 1 grade level behind. Now we had 30 students. So we're moving them out of the grade levels, 2 grades and 3 grade levels below, into 1 grade level or at grade level. I read reading performance by grade. These are the 3 areas where we're seeing most growth. If you look at the numbers that are circled in the fall for 4th grade, we had 40%, but in the winter, we moved up to 48%. And in the green, we moved from 8%, and we're up to 18% of our students. And again, domains from fall to winter. This is again for our teachers, and we see where our problem areas are and what we need to work on. Now, we utilize our small group instruction. We utilize our Ready as well as our after school program, but phonological awareness, and we look at phonics. Now, we don't teach that at 4th and 5th grade, but we meet our students where they are. We get them what they need, and we make sure that they have those in place. So we use our 95% group. We make sure we target that instruction in our after-school programs, and our teachers know where they are and what they need. We do have our 5th grade teachers sometimes come down and help teach 4th grade, vice versa. So we just want to make sure that our students are getting the help that they need so we can move all students. Again, this is our projected proficiency for winter, and this is reading. Typical growth, we will have a 29% passage rate, and with our stretch growth, we will have a 47% passage rate. Our already reading actionable insights, 40 more students on grade level, which is green. Fifth grade has the most students in green. Improvements in all domains fall to winner. Our area of strength is literature. Our area of weakness is informational. Vocabulary difference for below grade level. Okay, right here we look at our I-rated math, winter 24. And if you look at it, it shows our typical growth along with our stretch growth. And this is our improved placement percentage. Total overall is 49%. But if we look at fifth grade, it is 48%, and fourth grade is 50%. Same here for our reading, total them all together. But if you look at our fifth grade, our improved placement is 47%. And this is our usage in January for math. And this is individualized to the students. It is an average, so we do know how some students, we have some students who may be a little more advanced than other students who may not take as long. We do have some students that we have to redirect sometimes who get on there and get straight off. So this is an average of our students with the minutes on task. But if you look at our passage rate, we're at 80% on 80% or above for fourth and fifth grade. And this is our usage by grade level for reading, average minutes on task, and then our average percent January lessons passed. Our student engagement, we have our iReady classroom data charts. Students all have individual student data notebooks. Flex Wednesday has been a great help. Our parents ask for Flex Wednesday even when we don't have Flex Wednesdays. They do not want their students to get zeros, so I think that's a great opportunity to help our students see those improvements. With our clubs are very intentional and instructional. They have fun, plus they're learning at the same time. And then we also have our PBIS store on those early release days. Our students know that good behavior in the classroom transitions to good grades. So you got to be in the classroom in order to learn. So the PBIS program is really helping our students stay focused and engaged. Then our student incentives for our iReady performance. Students with any growth get to participate in a Newcomb game tournament. Students with a certain percentage of growth gets a hot cocoa party. And then at the end of the year, we have a field trip that Ms. Battle hopefully is going to approve pretty soon that we're going to do in the spring. It's in. Teacher engagement. Our teachers, we have iReady PLC data dives. We have our data meetings where I sit down with our teachers. We talk about our students. Teachers should know their students. Most of our students know where they should be, where they want to be. If you're ever in our building, you can ask any student, and I'm pretty sure 95% of them can tell you where they are and where they want to be. With our data walls, they made their own gremlin medallion, and they moved their medallion to where they are with iReady. Student teachers, they do have their data chats on early release days as well. Some teachers have them more often, but they are required to have them on those Flex Wednesdays. But teachers and students are constantly talking about their data. And we also do teacher recognition for scoring improvement. Our next step, our spring incentives for iReady. We constantly remind our students what the incentives are. Small group instruction is key. We make sure that students and teachers are making sure that we are pulling our small groups based on iReady and what our students need. We have a very, very, very strong teacher in math, fifth grade. Last week, she rotated to fourth grade classes and taught math last week so that our students are getting what they need. We have a TA. We have two TAs who pull small groups for us on a daily basis, and they work with those small groups. And then in our after school program, we're focused on our reading with vocabulary and our math with measurement and geometry, because that's where we need the most improvement based on our last diagnostic. Then that's just picture of one of our students. Once they finish their I-ready, they move their data medallion. That's it. Do we have any questions? Thank you for your time.
I want to say a couple things to you right quick and to the other presenters right quick. I truly believe that the easiest and best way to improve our middle schools and high schools start at kindergarten through fifth grade. So the plans that we have in place for them to learn to read, math, science stuff, those plans are very important. And I appreciate what you brought here tonight, and I appreciate what we're doing, and I want to move forward with it. But I'm just saying, from kindergarten to fifth grade are such informative years that those years are very, very important. That's the easiest way that we're going to improve our middle schools and high schools is by coming through kindergarten through fifth grade. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And if I could just interject, one of the issues we see is the fact that a lot of our kids, a high percentage of our kids, come to us with no formal instruction before kindergarten. And so they come to us with the vocabulary is limited to start. So it's, if we could have an early childhood development center would be great. I think we got to work toward that so we can make sure that we can serve all our kids before they get to kindergarten.
Mr. Sam Bass is working on this.
He is.
Good.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure that I'm able to present how we are maximizing student growth and leveraging I-ready data for success at WEMS. Thank you, Mr. Davis. So the slide that you see now is a comparison of student performance in reading from fall to winter. And as some of my colleagues have already stated, we want to make sure that we're looking at a decrease in the number of students performing 3 or more grade levels below. And you'll see that in the red. We also want to make sure that we're seeing an increase in students moving to mid or above grade level, which you see in the green. And of course, this is demonstrating that there's a shift towards proficiency. And I'm going to dive deeper as we move forward with this slide. So this is just a snapshot of reading and where we are. Now, if you look at our fall to winter math diagnostic, you see an overview performance here, and I'm pleased to see or say that we have a decrease in students performing 3 or more grade levels below, which reflects that there is effectiveness in our targeted math instruction that we're using. Additionally, more students are moving into the mid or above grade level range, as you see denoted in the green. So that shows that we are making some meaningful progress in mathematics. In the next slide, I'll break down specifically how we are moving. And so if you take a look at this snapshot of student growth in reading from fall to winter, a key success that I like to highlight is that students performed at mid or above grade level, and they moved from 5% in the fall to 15% in the winter. You'll also see a decrease in students performing 3 or more grade levels below. And I want to say from 2 grade levels or below, we went from 14% and maintained that 14%. But in the 3 or more grade levels or below, we went from 31% to 22%. So we're constantly looking for that red to decrease and the green to increase. This slide highlights the growth in math from fall to winter, and there is a positive shift as we have increased students performing at early on or grade level or mid or above grade level. And you can see that we grew from 11% in the fall to 24% in the winter. Additionally, once again, as we want to see that decline in the red, so there was a decline from 44% to 28% in the number of students performing 2 or 3 or more grade levels below. So once again, that shows that what we're doing in our math interventions are making an impact. So while these numbers indicate progress, we want to make sure that we want to continue to maintain or even accelerate growth because that's important. So some things that we're already doing and things that we're going to strengthen would be enhancing our small group instruction, encouraging consistent completion of already lessons to build our math fluency, and incorporating more hands-on problem-solving activities to reinforce our key math concepts. Here we're going to highlight the annual typical stretch growth as well as our improved placement. And my colleagues have already talked about the fact that typical growth is what we expect our students to gain throughout a typical school year. Stretch growth is what we want to push them to achieve so that it can move closer to proficiency. And improved placement means that they're moving from one level to the next. And we're constantly working to move those students from one level to the next. So some strong points that we see in our growth is that our 8th grade has shown the highest growth in reading, with 59% of our scholars achieving typical growth and 25% reaching stretch growth. That is something to be commended. Our 7th grade has performed well in reading as well, with 59% of students meeting typical growth targets and 17% achieving stretch growth. So that indicates that we're doing well in 7th and 8th grade in our upper grades. We however, want to note that in kindergarten, when we look at improved placement, we have 59% of students who have moved up in their reading placement levels. Our 8th grade, once again, is to be commended for 59% of students having also improved their reading placement. So this indicates that what we're doing in kindergarten, those interventions are working to help move students from one level to the next. We know that we still have work to do, as we talked about that foundational place with 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. So of course, we are ensuring that we're working diligently and strategically with those areas, those teachers, to provide them with the support that I'll talk about as we move forward in the presentation. Mr. Davis, did you skip a slide? Can you go back to the reading usage? Okay. So this slide, you will see the reading usage. Research indicates that moderate to high usage of iReady instruction is associated with greater learning gains. So typically, we want our students to complete on average 30 to 49 minutes per week. We're certainly going to push that number because, as you can see highlighted, there are some areas that need more support in ensuring that the average amount at least hits that 30-minute mark. And so we are working with teachers to track individual student completion and usage time to ensure that we fall into that appropriate range. We also want to highlight, and this data is based on just January alone, the percentage of lessons passed in January. Remember, our goal is at least 80% of lessons passed, and we do have some areas that are close but not quite for the month of January. So of course, we're being very strategic and intentional about ensuring that we meet our goals for the month of February and moving forward, because we know that the more that we implement and use the iReady pathways, the more our students will be pushed towards proficiency. The next slide incorporates what we see in the math as it relates to usage. And of course, once again, we're looking at those areas where there's less than 80% of an average lesson passed for the month of January. We're close but not quite in kindergarten and 7th grade. And then of course, once again, the average minutes on task, we want to make sure that we address those areas of concern. So we are working with our incentives. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later on, to ensure that students are motivated to be engaged throughout their lessons. We want to ensure that we provide small group math interventions using those reports, and that we include things like math fluency challenges. That helps our students to really compete in a fun way against each other. And we're offering professional development consistently through our POCs, through our early release Wednesdays to ensure that our teachers are understanding how to integrate our ready lessons into their daily instruction. This slide is dealing with our projected proficiency. And here you'll see two different areas, typical growth and stretch growth, that my colleagues have already alluded to. So with typical growth with reading, we're looking at 41% proficiency if we were to have our students to take SC Ready today. That is actually up from 40% last school year, which was the actual proficiency on SC Ready. So we're proud to see that even at this point in the school year, we're already slightly ahead of that. And as we're pushing our students towards stretch growth, which is the ultimate path towards proficiency, we're looking at our students being at 47% proficient with stretch growth. And that's where we are right now. We're working very diligently for when our spring administration of our ready occurs that we'll see even more growth by that time. Here you see the projected proficiency broken down. And so we know that we see varying levels of success from 3rd to 8th grade. For 3rd grade, we see that 29% of students would be meet or exceed expectations, while our 8th grade scholars have a much stronger performance, and they are currently projected at 58% meeting or exceeding at this time if they were to actually take the SC Ready. For stretch growth, and once again, remember that is the maximum amount of growth that we want students to earn so they can get closer to proficiency. Our 3rd graders increased from 29 to 47% if they would meet that stretch growth, while our 8th graders would rise to 62%. So as Dr. McCall noted earlier, it is very important, and we keep stressing this with our teachers as well as our students, that of course we look at our typical growth and we speak about that, but we're pushing and we're aiming for that stretch because that is going to get our students closer to where they need to be as far as proficiency. The slide that you see now is similar to ELA, however, this deals specifically with math. So for typical growth as it relates to math, right now, if our students took SC Ready, they would be at 30% proficiency, which is up from 28.1% last year. Once again, still a slight increase at this point in the school year. And if our students met stretch growth, they would be at 40% proficiency. Once again, we're working very diligently to ensure that we maintain this growth and this proficiency and accelerate it up until the spring. As we look at the breakdown from grades 3 through 8, we see that for typical growth for 3rd grade, 47% of students, if they were to take this test today, would be classified meets or exceed. However, the reverse for 8th grade, which is of course an area of opportunity, only 11% of those students right now would be at meet or exceed. So we want to ensure that we are working very diligently. I know that from the middle school standpoint, if you look at that, we have worked with those teachers very closely to help them analyze their data. If you look at the approaches category, I'm not sure if many have talked about that. That category would be the place where the majority of middle school students are at this point in time. So we are ensuring that our teachers know those students, as I think Mr. Jacobs talked about. We need to know the students behind the percentages. We need to know the students behind the numbers. So they are understanding where the students are falling, and there's no option but to move the students out of that approaching category to meets or exceed. We're trying to move from one level to the next for every category, but we really have some work to do in that middle school area as it relates to the approaches category. And we're being very strategic about moving those students. Some actionable insights. So as we continue to dive into the data, there's just so much that we have looked into and will continue to look into. We are pleased to see that there is a pattern of increase in the percentage of scholars on or above grade level and a decrease of scholars who are 2 or more grade levels below in reading and math, and that's across the board. So that is the pattern. We are moving in the right direction. Our 7th and 8th grade scholars have strong annual and stretch growth in both reading and math. We have high placement growth in kindergarten and 8th grade. So it's showing strong movement from one placement level to the next in both subject areas. We have a high percentage of lessons passed in mathematics, and that's across the board. Our 5th and 8th grade SC Ready ELA projections and our 3rd and 5th grade SC Ready math projections are both positive and high, and they are well above what we were last school year. Of course, as always, we're looking for those opportunities for improvement. So in our foundational grades, in our early grades, specifically 2nd and 3rd grade, we want to ensure that we're looking at those domains of comprehension and informational text where our students are struggling. So we're drilling down to those foundational skills that our students need support. In 6th grade specifically, we have discovered that there is some comprehension and analysis issues that need to be targeted. So we are working on that as well. Specific actions that we are taking and will continue to take as we move forward to address any opportunities for growth and allow our staff and scholars to continue to engage in our iReady implementation. We want to ensure that, as Dr. McCall alluded to, that our Tier 1 instruction, our whole group, our whole class instruction is strong. And when we, of course, strengthen that, then we want to ensure that when we're looking at our small group intervention, that we are not just doing that without any thought or planning, but that we're intentional and that we're monitoring that time that we have with our students and that we're tracking those students. We have to know, we must know, our teachers are expected to know who their students are specifically and where they are as it relates to their performance. So that comes through during our individual data chats with our teachers, through our POCs, and through just one-on-one conversations with teachers around what they're doing to help specific groups. One thing that's great about iReady is that it helps teachers with those groupings. They have reports where they can pull instructional groupings, so they don't have to think about it. It's there for them, and that's what we love about the iReady implementation. We're going to continue to utilize research-based comprehension strategies, such as annotating, note-taking, and summarizing. And these are strategies that can be used across disciplines and across grade levels, and we're emphasizing that school-wide. We will continue to interact with data consistently and monitor and adjust. We have, as all the schools have, data walls. We conduct data chats with our teachers. Our teachers conduct data chats with their scholars. Our teachers have data notebooks. Our students keep data notebooks. So data is in the forefront of the entire school community's mind. And we just want to make sure that we increase, we reinforce, and we reiterate that expectation. We want to ensure that our iReady incentive program is strengthened. So right now we have an iReady wall. We highlight our students on social media. We provide them with extrinsic treats when they score a certain amount, but we want to do that with more frequency and fidelity. Our immediate next steps. It is extremely important that we increase our family and community engagement and awareness around what we're doing at the school level as it relates to iReady. We cannot do this work alone, and so we're hoping through our communications, through our parent conferences, through all types of brochures and videos, that we increase that awareness so that the families in the community can support us in our initiatives. We're going to continue on with our weekly walkthroughs, our learning walks, and our coaching cycles. We're going to continue on with our professional development, specifically around data-driven instruction, effective small group instruction, and building student engagement in iReady. We're going to take the student data projections that I alluded to earlier and continue to drill down with that and ensure that we know where all of our students are headed and move forward in the right direction, because we know that it is important to invest in our teacher training, and that our goal is to ensure that all of our staff feel supported and confident in using the strategies, and our scholars have exactly what they need to demonstrate excellent performance. I thank you. Any questions, concerns? Thank you so much.
Good evening. Tonight I'll be presenting the data from McCall Elementary Middle School. Do I have the clicker? Okay. Okay, so just for clarifications before everybody's confused, the first charts are where we are now. That's our winter diagnostic as opposed to where we were in fall. So I didn't want you to look at that and go, oh my gosh, we've gone backwards. No, we actually have gone forward. So just wanted you to look at that. So as you can see on our winter diagnostic, we've increased on for students that are on grade level or above grade level from 20% to 35%, from on one grade level below from 36% down to 32%, and from 2 or more grade levels from 35 to 33% in our reading diagnostic for our winters. For math, same numbers. We went from 6% that were on grade level or exceeding grade level to 25%. We went down from 53%, one grade level below, to 50%, and we went down from 40%, 2 or more grade levels below, to 28%. So we're showing some good growth across the board. Okay, these slides break down are currently where we are right now from the most recent diagnostic, broken down by grade level, their typical growth, which you've heard multiple times tonight, as well as the stretch growth. The typical growth is the comparison of the student on that grade level across all other students in that grade level, and obviously the stretch growth is where we would like to obtain them to be. The percentage of improvement in placement, that's a pretty important number. As you can see that just in kindergarten alone, as he was talking earlier, Mr. Jiggers was talking earlier, 70% of our students improved a placement level, which is tremendous. And also some of the things that we're doing at McCall is to identify students earlier that may have learning differences or learning difficulties, and to meet them where they are, so that as they do progress on to that 5th grade and fourth, 6th grade, that they are meeting those needs as well. Okay, this is also for our mass diagnostic, where we are currently, for our typical growth and our stretch growth, as well as the improvement of placement. And then our projected proficiency. Now, what this slide here does is it breaks down if our students at McCall took the SE Ready right now, and they just only met the typical growth, we would have 67% in that 3rd grade level that met or exceeded. And you can see the numbers broken down by each category. If they hit their stretch growth, we would be at 78% that meets and exceeds if they were to take the SE Ready diagnostic right now.
I hate to ask you this question because I've noticed it on just about everybody's presentation.
Yes, sir.
But are those numbers supposed to add up to 100%? Because those numbers all kind of ways don't add up to 100%.
No, sir. It's where they are right now based on the diagnostic information that we've taken from the assessments they have. The overall number there, the 67, is a breakdown of the exceeds and the meets, as you can see that.
So in other words, on that last one is stretch growth.
Yes, sir.
We're talking 55% meets or exceeds in reading, 36% exceeds.
That 36% is a breakdown from that 55, sir?
It comes out of the 55.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Just to add, if you add up the exceeds, meets, approaches, and does not meet, they should add up to be 100%.
Okay.
Because the meets and exceeds combines exceeds and meets together.
I don't think anybody's added up to 100% what I was looking at through there, but I was just curious on it because he had some big numbers there. Okay.
Okay, so that was the reading proficiency, and this is continued on reading proficiency through the grade levels. Once again, that is stating if they took the SE Ready right now and they stayed at typical growth, that's where we would be at as far as meets or exceeds, as well as if we pushed them beyond that level to the stretch growth, where they would be at for meet and exceeds, broken down by each grade level. Okay, so moving on to mathematics. Obviously, we have talked about it across the board from all of our colleagues here. Math is an area we need to improve on. And also I agree, last couple of years, we focused mainly on ELA. This year, we've turned up the heat on the mathematics and are working towards that. As you can see, third grade is really killing it. If they were to take the SE rating right now and they stayed on typical growth, we're looking at 69% of students on meets or exceeds. And if we can push them beyond that to that stress growth, you're looking at 81%. I will explain a little bit about fourth grade. We've had some issues there in fourth grade. We had a long-term sub in there. However, we have now secured a certified teacher, so I believe that's some of the issues with some of the dips there in the fourth grade. Moving on to continued on with proficiency level, that's also going through the other grade levels, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh and eighth. And this is the percentage of usage and the percentage of passage rating based on the grades levels K through 8 for reading. And this is an average, as Dr. McCall said earlier, this is an average for the third grade at 3 hours and 8 minutes was averaged across from all the times across all third grade levels. And as you can see, we have high percentages in the lower schools for passaging ratings, and that's the 70% or above passage rating. And that's for ELA, English, and mathematics. The correlation between the hours or minutes spent each week, and as Dr. Brown said earlier, we require teachers to utilize at least a minimum of 45 minutes per week is what we require, at least 45 minutes per subject matter, whether that be ELA, they have to use 45 minutes per ELA and 45 minutes for mathematics. Some, as you can see, exceed that, but I don't have too big of an issue with that because even the ones that have exceeded that, you see the percentage of theirs has excelled that way.
You say you require 45 minutes?
Yes, sir. We
That
require.
one says 13 minutes. Average minute on task.
Yes, sir. That's on. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's the discussion that will take place, sir. Okay, actionable insights. This is an overall of the reading insights of the way it broke down. And as they talked about earlier, the percentage from the 26 to the, I want to break it down into actual numbers. If you look at the red there and see where we are, previously in fall, we had 244 students in the red. This diagnostic showed that we moved 67 students out of that red into a yellow or green area. And in the fall, we had 106 students in the green area, and we moved that to 196 students, which is a movement of 90 students to the green area, which is met or exceeds area or on grade level or above grade level. The percentage of students that are scoring between 2 and 3 grade levels or more below decreased from fall to winter. We went from 45% down to 33%. Based on the analysis of the data, students who struggle more significantly with areas of comprehensions as well as informational text. And I will point this out too, that, and you brought it up earlier, ma'am, I really like iReady because if I'm struggling on a test and I miss a question and I miss another question, and I miss another question, iReady automatically lowers the challenging level of that question so that it continues to allow me to work at my level until I reach mastery. Then it goes back to the more difficult questions. So that's why I like this program. So we look at all that data. We look at the areas of the domains as other colleagues were talking about, and the weakest areas where we fell short were informational text and comprehension. So we're working towards putting plans in place to increase that as well. Based on the analysis of the data, we were most significant gains in high frequency words with a 78% of students performing on grade level or above grade level. So we've put in reading plan actions. We're going to focus on comprehension and informational text, and that's across the board and for every subject. It's not just ELA, but informational text is in every subject. So we've made sure that all teachers know that you can utilize this in every subject. Small groups using the iReady tools. Another thing for iReady, I like about iReady is if I have a kid, I'm looking at a domain where they're weak in, whether it be phonics or frequency or informational text, iReady has a resource for the tools where the teacher can click on those tools. It not only pulls down activities and lessons for them, it also pulls activities and lessons that the parents can do at home, which is why I really like it as well. So, because nowadays, as you were saying, Mr. Jurgens, a lot of parents don't know, we've been taught a little bit different when we were going through school. This gives us an opportunity to add that resource back to the parents so they can help their kid at home. Instructional strategies we're working on is building on prior knowledge, explicit vocabulary. We've really hit our teachers with that. Is a lot of times we have to correct, as adults, we have to correct ourselves in how we speak and how we speak properly, especially when it comes to examinations, because we have to familiarize our students with words that they're not familiar with. The way someone speaks in one area is a little bit different than the way another one speaks in another area. So we have to make sure they're using that same terminology that they will see on an examination. So we're really focusing on vocabulary, annotation of text, asking the student, what does it mean? Where'd you get that information from? It's one thing to read it, but where at? Where'd you find that at? Modeling and using visual aids, as well as determining what text is asking you. When I used to teach, I told my students we would do, I'd take SC ready questions that were released and I'd put them on the board for my morning work, and I would break the question down. And I would let them know, all that fluff, all that's just fluff. What is the question asking you, and what does it want you to do? Johnny riding a red bicycle on South Street with the wind blowing 30 miles, sideways means nothing to what it's actually asking you. So teaching those strategies is important. We've also acquired a reading interventionist who pulls students regularly every day to strengthen on those reading skills, fluency, as well as informational text. Our math insights, we had the students that were on percentage of 2 or 3 or more grade levels decreased from fall to winter. We went from 42% to 38%. Once again, to equate this into numbers, we had 218 students in the red. That reduced to 144 students. We moved 74 students out of the red. In the green, for mathematics, we had a 36 in the green before winter testing. That moved to 122. We moved 86 students to the green, which means they're on grade level or above. Math, based on the analysis of the students that struggle mostly in the geometry area. However, they show growth in this area with a decrease from 22% to 16% in the reds from fall to winter. We also had an increase of students who were on or above grade levels from 15% to 33% in algebraic and algebraic thinking. And that's all from those domains. I didn't put the domains in mind, but that's all from those domains: algebraic expression, geometry, etc. So our math plan moving forward is we are focusing on our geometry and geometrical shapes, areas, as well as design. Once again, our iReady is wonderful, has wonderful tools, helps teachers pull small groups using that data. As my colleagues spoke earlier, they're using the data in the classrooms. The students know their data, the teachers know their data. Instructional strategies, really big on this year on using manipulatives, putting something in the kids' hands, moving things around. Modeling using visual aids, once again, teaching that mathematics vocabulary. There's a lot of vocabulary in mathematics that kids need to know. Using those real world connections, as well as academic feedback for our students, as well as our teachers. And then allowing them, as Dr. McCall said earlier, is allowing sometimes, there's strength in the struggle. As a teacher, you want to run over and help somebody real quick because they're struggling with it, but we need to allow them to struggle through it because there is strength that they gain in the struggle. So we allow them to struggle until we absolutely have to intervene. So teacher engagement, student engagement, teacher data presentations, one-on-one with the administrations, as well as through their SLOs. We have teacher and student data meetings, data goal settings used through the iReady. We use their target goal settings, update our data folders, our teacher data folders, as well as our student data folders. We have every classroom, as Dr. Brown said, every classroom has a data wall. Our school has a data wall in our PLC room, which our teachers see every week. And student data projections by our teachers in their PLCs. And then finally, our next steps, we're going to continue on with our weekly PLCs where we talk about data and how we can move our kids based on what we're seeing in our classrooms, continue on with our common assessments, our weekly walkthroughs and feedback. And as Dr. McCall said, we've done peer observations in our class, in our schools, as well as in other schools, coaching cycles with our reading coach, as well as our administration team, and well as other mentors in the building. Instructional surveys and climate surveys, quarterly data meetings with our data specialist from iReady. She just came and met with us, and that was phenomenal. The teachers really gained a lot of insight from that, and our data meetings with our district. Do you guys have any questions? I believe we're heading in the right direction. You've seen a lot of growth. I expect to see a lot more growth, and we're excited what we're doing over there.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to say to my colleagues, I saw a lot of fresh
Stretch growth. A lot of different numbers. Y'all keep stretching. Y'all stretching in. We're gonna be good when they get to the high school. So I do appreciate that. We are here to share. If you go to that fourth slide, start with that fourth slide, Ms. Davis. Keep going. Right here. To share our already data. It's a little different at high school because we're focusing on our ninth grade and our sped students and with already. And here you see where the fall we tested 149 students went through already, and you can see where we had the percentages there: 2% mid or above grade level, 12 early on, 6 1 grade, 14 at 2 grade level below, and 66% 3 or more grade. And that's in math. In reading, we tested 126 students, 5% mid, 2% early or on grade level, 16% 1 grade level below, 10% 2 grade level below, and 67% 3 or more grade levels below. This next slide, we focus on our math. This data here that shows the winter, as which I just stated for the fall. These are the same students because this is year-long math. The first semester, they were in foundations, and now they are intermediate. So these are the same students here. But look at the growth. We tested 149 students in fall, but we increased that number to 170 students tested so we can get more, get their baseline as well. So we went from 2% to 11%, 16% early on relative to 16%. We had 5% 1 grade level below and went up to 6%, which we tested 21 more students. We went down in the areas that we wanted to decrease here. 2 grade levels below went down to 13%, and 60%, 3 grade levels below, we went down to 55%, 3 grade levels or below. 13% did not test, and then we decreased that number to 1%. So we got those students so we can actually work with them, see where they are, so we can start working on the areas they are deficient in. As you see here in the fall, again, green is good. The more green, just like money in your pocket, the more green you have, that's where you want to be. So we had in the fall 13 students, but then we look at the winter, that increased to 46 students that are on grade level. We have 8 students, 1 grade level below, and here we see we have 11, but again, we tested more. But we saw some decrease in them. In the last two, we have 128 students, and we decreased that number to 113 students. And then again, we tested more in the winter for math. And you can see the areas in the fall where we have green. We increased the number of operations, the algebraic thinking. We increased that. You see more green in the winter. The measurements and data, we increased there. And look at geometry. Geometry grew in the fall to the winter. And so that's definitely a plus as you see how we're working to close that gap before these students, because these students will take the EOC at the end of the semester. Again, it's the breakdown here from fall to spring. Number of students on grade, above grade level for each domain increase. My greatest gains in 2 domains was algebra and algebraic thinking and geometry, and deeper analysis in that algebra and the domain. So we have some levels that we're improving, so we're working. And what you see on the right-hand column shows where the domains are. So in the fall, they fall into that. When it says K5, it's more of that 4th grade to 5th grade level. We had 76 students, and in the winter 75, we had students between that 6th to 8th grade level when that tested in that area 55 to 43. We had 14 students in the fall that tested on that early algebra 1 level,
and that increased to 32% in the winter, which is good. Mid-algebra, 2 students, and that increased to 15. Late algebra, 1, that increased to 3. And algebra 2, we had 2 students. So anything, when you look at the early algebra to the algebra 2, those are numbers that we can build on, and we don't want to tackle and decrease, move those 6 to 8 students, continue to move them until those last 4 categories, and then move our K5 area, push them towards that 6-8, leading towards their early algebra 1. The targeted skills for math that we're working on to improve in math, especially in the algebra and algebraic thinking, solving multi-step equations, solving problems with linear, quadratic, and exponential functions, graphing linear and quadratic and exponential functions, and increasing student problem solving stamina. Because we found that is a problem. Kids, when they involve reading, that's a lot of our problem. Our kids, working on that stamina, giving them more practice problem, things that are going to help them to be able to sustain them when it comes down to the EOC test. Here we look at our reading data, and these are different students, but it's still important because these students, we're getting them ready for next year as they get ready for English 2, which is our tested area. But in the fall, we tested 90 students, and as you see, we had 0 mid or grade level below, 0 on early grade level, 7% 1 grade level below, 8% 2 grade levels below, 56% 3 or more grade levels below, and then 30% that did not test. But in the winter, which was a different group of students because they changed semesters, we see here where, and in their defense, this group here got 1 semester under their belt of high school. So this is the new group that's current right now that did this assessment here. We have 7% mid or above grade level, 11% early or on grade level, 12% 1 grade level below, 6% 2 grade levels below, 57% 3 or more grade level below, and 8% did not test.
So we're saying basically the 9th grade, we still have 57% that cannot read. They're reading 3 grades below the 9th grade level.
As we assessed on with our reading, they are deficient in those areas. Yes, sir.
Are some of those the repeaters in that data as well?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer, if you can't read, you can't do anything else. But I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Right. You're right. And as you can see here, what I just shared with you, this chart kind of breaks down exactly what we just discussed. In the fall, didn't have any green, and we know green is what we want to see. Green is moving in the right direction compared to winter. We see where we have the green appears, and when those students are moving, as we continue to work with these students to get those skills. So by the time they leave their English 1, they'll be ready and to perform as relates, as it gets to next school year when they'll be ready to test in for the EOC. So here are the domain areas. As we can see here, the phonological awareness, the green is there. Phonics, lots of green there. High quality words here are there, but look is where we struggle. The struggling area in the fall: vocabulary, comprehension literature, and then the comprehension informational test. And as you look at the winter, we do see a lot more green, see some growth in vocabulary. We see growth, some growth in our comprehension literature, and we see growth in our comprehension informational text. And again, this is just a breakdown, seeing it another way from what you just observed on the chart. So fall to spring, the number of students on and above grade level for each domain increased. We saw that.
The greatest gains was in the vocabulary domain and deeper analysis of vocabulary, comprehension literature, and the comprehension informational text. We saw in those last three that we grew, more green grew in those areas. So some targeted skills for reading. For vocabulary, implicit and explicit to the text, vertical alignment with English 2. Again, that's so important because it's important to, when those kids get to English 2, they have that foundation from English 1. And so we're working to make sure those students are ready for the next level of English. Reading comprehension, context clues, literature, informational text, and increasing reading stamina. All those are so important for that reading EOC, because we know on the EOC there are two parts. You have the writing part and you have the reading part. So you have two parts of that. So it's important that we in ninth grade that we push them hard to be ready to be able to withstand, have that stamina to be able to perform well on that test for and during their English 2 semester. Why is that important? We're pushing our ninth graders because you see, this is a part of our school report card. And so we had, you see where we have, last year we had 158 students out of 290 on time. That's 611 on time requirement at 54.5. But look at where we are right now currently. 210 out of 225 students are on track right now. So we're at a 93.3%, and we already have a plan in place with those 15 students that we're working with right now to get them on board. So we are, our ninth graders are performing well. We're going to continue that, and so we should see those point value on our school report card increase because of the work that we're putting in with our ninth grade students. And these are some goals that academic goals that we set, because our ninth grade do play a part in that, because they are a part of that Algebra 1 cohort from last year at 19.9. Our goal is to push it to 40. So we're working. It's year long, so we are putting in the work through our PLCs. We're putting in the work through our small groups. Our instructional coaches are working hard to assist. And along with the admin team, we're working with our Algebra 1 teachers and getting our students ready to be able to perform at a high level at the end of this semester for our Algebra 1 exam. And just a little tidbit from there, our fall EOC, so you can see here, we did have some perfect scores already, in which we will honor them on this coming Friday during our awards program, and they will be on our board agenda for our next board meeting. So we have 16 students that made perfect scores already. So the word is out. Our students, they are aware of what's at stake, what we need, how we need to perform. And we tell them all the time. We talk to them, we encourage them, and so they know they play a big part in the turnaround as it relates to our school report card. So this is good news, and so we're working and making sure that our students are well informed as it relates to our school report card. And some current practices, utilizing the already data is important, especially not just so not just with our SPED, but we use it a lot for SPED because it really helps our teachers to get the data needed for our students' IEP, so they can have good goals. It's important. IEP is it's not valid if you don't have that correct data where the students are. So it gives our teachers the opportunity to really dive deep, so we can have a plan in place when it's time for our teachers to really best help them. Intentional and data-driven PLC is so important, and we're working there. Our teachers are responding well to that, using the I-rated diagnostic to break down and see what's next steps. How are we going to inform these small groups to get this instruction? What's going to be the next steps for what area to spend more time? If this area here doesn't require 2-3 days of instruction, and this area here does, how can I move to shift in my planning to make sure we're addressing those areas of deficiencies? Common assessment in EOC classes. very important. So now we're comparing apples to apples when it comes down to common assessment, so we can, when we're sharing data in PLCs, it's the correct data now. No matter what teacher is in there, it's still the same data that's being shared because it's being given to all students. Student tier, very important for whole group and small group, and daily EOC practice questions. It can be as starters, it can be an exit ticket, all those things that our kids are seeing it and hearing it every day, exactly how, similar to what they would see on our EOC test. Next steps, continue. We had a good meeting last week with our already representative. So we got some good data from her to really help our leadership team here to be able to analyze those reports, and with our teachers to be able to utilize the tools for instruction and the teacher toolbox to help them to really implement more effective strategies in their classrooms. When the student tier the students, goal setting with teachers and students. One thing we're doing, especially in our EOCs, if you look here, every student in my hand here have their goals, and they share it. Our teachers sit with them individually and talk with them and get a chance to have one student will share that standardized testing is just not my thing. And so the teacher sat down with that student and came up with a plan to show them how, the growth. More, as long as you're growing, those are things that's more and more, and that's important, because if you're growing, then you're performing towards helping as it relates to reaching and meeting your goals. And having those incentives for our radio program, we have those incentives in place, and our students are working towards those different incentives as it relates to, this past semester, they loved taking them to Florence for bowling, had a good time. We had an ice cream social with that as well. And the next day they had treat bags. So they were looking forward to something every day, but they were performing and they were working. So those things, those incentives do work. Even in high school, they still work. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted clarification. You said in the fall you all had 90 students, then in the winter it was another set of students.
For English, yes. For English 1, yes.
Was that intentional, or that just kind of how that happened?
It's just kind of how
So
it
it's not a
happened.
requirement of the students.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
And I'm curious because based on my reading what I read, it seems like it does help and it gives you some motivation if you start getting answers right. Like, how do parents and guardians really understand the importance and the positive impact that it could have on their kids, and then push them to take it?
It is, and see, in high school, we really utilize it with our students so they can see where they are. Some students, and they can see why we're doing what we're doing, and so it has been beneficial. And so our students get a chance to sit down, just having that one-on-one with the teachers. This is what your data shows, and this is why. When we have this group session, this is what you're doing here. And so they can have 3 or 4 different things going on in class, and doing that class time, but it's geared towards those deficiencies for that particular student.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Driggers, there's one question that you asked that's just, it keeps reverberating over and over in my head. And what you asked was, how could children be 2-3 years behind and still pass to the next grade?
Good question.
Right. What happens oftentimes is teachers are teaching below what the standard is requiring.
Should we change that?
Well, that's what the professional development, those are the things that we're working on. But for example, the way you would teach research skills in 1st grade are totally different than the way we teach them in 5th grade, than we teach them in 9th grade. So the key is, one, the vocabulary is a big piece, making sure that our teachers are using the vocabulary that's going to be used on the state summative test. We've got to use that same vocabulary, because if you don't, then it throws kids off. They don't know what it means. For example, I know one year it said on the state test, it asked students, using a graphic organizer, write such and such a piece. okay, an essay like. Well, the kids across the state didn't do well because they didn't know what graphic organizer was because teachers weren't using that language. But if you asked them to use a hamburger, a beginning, the middle, and the end, they knew what you were talking about. So again, a lot of times the way the teachers are testing versus the way the standardized tests are worded and formatted, it's different. So what we're trying to do is bridge that gap. So our teachers will be formulating tests and questions that would be just like the format on the test. That's important. And the other thing is that's why you'll get students passing to the next grade, but they don't pass the state test.
But that comes back in my mind. And I'm speaking only in my mind. Everybody understand that. I'm not speaking for the board. That comes back to reading skills. And as they're progressing through kindergarten to the 5th grade, that's what I was trying to state.
It
Whether I
does.
stated it correctly or not was I like to see more emphasis myself put on reading skills because, as I said to Mr. Johnson, if you can't read, you
That's
can't
true.
do math, you can't do science, you can't come up with history.
That's
You got
true,
to
and
be
that's
able to read.
and that's exactly the reason we have the reading coaches and we have that assistance from the state, and those are the things that they're helping with as well. But again, for our teachers, you got to make sure that they're teaching the standards at the level it should be taught. And sometimes that's not the case. Not just us; it's across the nation.
Yeah.
But again, those are some of the things that we've definitely working on. And I'm going to ask my principals when they come up and present the next time that if you're going to use an acronym, say what that acronym means. Because they said a lot about PLCs, that's professional learning communities, but that's not something that the board would just know right off.
That's correct. Thank you.
And like manipulatives and several things.
And don't misunderstand me. I understand that we've got a long way to go.
No, I don't.
Yeah, a long way to go on this. But like I said, I just think myself, like I said, I just think that the reading skills, as you said,
It's extremely
nationwide,
important.
need to really be worked on tremendously.
I agree.
Because all the other aspects of your learning that you're learning, like I said, history, science, math, if you can't read, you're in trouble with all of it.
From kindergarten to kindergarten through 2nd, really, you're learning to read.
Exactly.
And from 3rd grade forward, you're reading to learn. So
They learn more.
that's it.
They learn more by the 5th grade than they learn the rest of the time, unless they're very
If they
motivated to learn.
I think Dr. Tiller made a good suggestion early on when she talked about the early learning center. You know, because if we can find money to do anything, the earlier we start, the better off we'll be in this district. And I think that's very, very important.
Was that the last presenter?
Yes.
Okay,
Budget.
all right.
Budget calendar.
Unfortunately, Glenham Middle School of Discovery will not be with us tonight, so they'll present at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, 2020, 2025, 26 budget calendar. Then-
To the established protocol.
We need to approve.
Coachman, Dr. Tiller, board members. Tonight I will be presenting the budget calendar, the school budget and finance presentation, and I'll follow up with the financial report. You should have this in your board packets, but if you would like to look at the screen, we have it listed so you can see it. February the 3rd, which is today, we have our board meeting and I'll presenting the budget calendar for our regular meeting. I'll be presenting the orientation on school finance and budget. We will be soliciting the board on priorities for our budget for 24-25. We will schedule our staff meetings with principals, department heads to discuss budget needs. On March the 3rd, as our regular board meeting, we'll have an open invitation to our bond counsel as well as our auditors for an update. On March the 17th will be our second board meeting. This will be our work session. We will discuss and review board priorities. and review any revenue projections that we have at that time from our State Department. April the 7th, 2025 will be our regularly scheduled board meeting. On April the 14th, we will have our second board meeting. This will be our first budget workshop. May the 5th will be our regularly scheduled board meeting. May the 19th will be our second board meeting. The board will approve the advertisement for our first reading and public hearing. Followed by June the 6th will be our board meeting, public hearing at 5 o'clock, and our first reading of the budget. June the 9th, second reading, and June the 16th will be our third reading if needed. And these dates are subject to change based on information. As time progresses, if we need to make changes, we can make those changes based on the board. The budget calendar is what we use as a guide as we prepare to work on the budget. So it'll give us a roadmap as to what we're working on at each board meeting. Any questions?
Yep, it's good.
Yeah, Mr. Kwanzaa, June 6th, that's a Friday. Did you mean to have June 2nd for that one?
Let's see.
We don't normally meet on Friday. Let's see.
A third reading, maybe.
Yep, that is a mistake. I'm sorry. That should be June the 2nd and June the 9th. I'm sorry. Make sure I correct that. Thank you for catching that.
Mhm.
June the 6th, June the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th.
Yep.
16th or 18th? 16th, okay.
This time of the year, we like to do a orientation just to prepare your mind and your hearts ready to work on the budget. A lot of people don't really understand how school finance works, so we take this time out for our board and, of course, the general public so that they can understand what we have to deal with as far as it works for the budget. Just a small breakdown of the district finance and the purpose of tonight, and we'll do an orientation to prepare you for the upcoming budget for fiscal year 25-26. With school board finance, we have several funds. We have our general fund. This is our main operating fund. We have special revenue funds, which consist of pupil activity fund and education improvement act funds. Those are federal and state funds that are used for specific purposes. Our debt service fund, this is used for debt services for projects, long-term obligations, based for things of that nature where you want to building school and facilities. And a school building fund, this is what we use for construction, repair, and renovation. We receive a certain amount of bond funds that we can use for capital projects, for repairs, renovation, and acquisition of school facilities. And lastly, we have a food service fund. This is the funds that we receive for our breakfast and lunch programs at all of our schools. Faculty and staff, they can actually purchase lunch at all of our schools. Next slide. The different funding types, we have local revenue. It consists of our property taxes, which is taxes that are paid by the citizens of the county. Fee in lieu of taxes. This is for our industries. Instead of the industries paying taxes, they get a discount and they negotiate a fee with the county. So they pay a fee in lieu of taxes. Tuition. This is out of district students that want to come to Marlboro County. We charge them a small fee. And of course, we earn some interest income. Our state funding types, which consist of our tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. These types of revenue is based on property tax relief for those citizens that don't have to pay taxes, pay little taxes. So the state will reimburse us for taxes that we would have received if those folks would have paid the full amount of taxes. Also, we have the penny sales tax, merchants inventory. Again, this is related to our industries that don't have to pay taxes on their inventory. Manufacturers depreciation reimbursement, motor carrier, and transfer and indirect costs. Additional State revenue is our EIA, Education Improvement Act. This helps the district pay for teacher salaries. We receive funding for career and technology funding. We receive funding for teacher supply checks that we issue the first day that teachers are back in school. National Board salary supplement, and for CERDEP, Child Early Reading and Development Education Programs. We also receive funding for school bus driver salaries as well as retiree insurance. Additional funding types, federal revenue, our title programs, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Perkins, also known as our CATE, Career and Technology Education, USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, Food Service, and of course, grants. Additional funding, the district can borrow funds. This is our general obligation funds that we use to finance construction projects. And our borrow limit is 8% of the district assessed property value referendum. The main operating fund for our district is for our revenues and our expenditures. Of course, as we stated earlier, our revenues consist of our property taxes from the county, state funding, interest income, and our expenditures are our salaries and fringe benefits, utilities and maintenance. School allocations would consist of supplies, recurring and non-recurring expenditures. If you look at the chart below for our fiscal year 24-25, 84 to 85% approximately, this is the largest expenditure for our general fund budget. This consists of our salaries and our fringe benefits for all of our staff. So that's the majority of the pot of money that is spent on expenditures for our general fund. The general fund responsibilities. The fiscal year for the school district is from July the 1st to June the 30th. The school board is responsible for approving the general fund budget by June the 30th each year. And the district must hold a public hearing on each budget year, and the notice must be published at least 15 days in advance of the board meeting. Building a budget. What is a budget? A lot of people don't know what a budget is. It's not just spend money, spend what's available. That is all false. With a budget is estimated income and our estimated expenditures for a set period of time. With the school district, we have a fiscal year, which is FISCAL, and there's a physical year. Physical year with a P is from January to December. And of course, with the school district, which we have to go by the state, is from July to June. So the purpose of a budget is to establish financial priorities, allocate resources effectively, and monitor economic performances. Those things are very important when it comes to working on a budget. You got to know how much money you got, where the priorities need to be focused on, the allocations, and of course you got to monitor the economy. You got to know what's going on. Good practices of building a budget. You have to follow the legislative process very closely. The legislators at the State Department, they're responsible for passing a budget for the state of South Carolina, and part of that budget goes to education. So our board members, they participate going to the State Department, talking with our legislators, talking with our senators and our House representatives, letting them know what we need in our district. So we have to follow those legislative processes very closely. Take account for non-recurring funds for future expenses. Prime example, federal funds that were given that are no longer available. Don't put your hope in those types of funding that's not going to be around anymore. So you have to make some other changes, make some adjustments, develop a budget calendar, create a roadmap so you know where you're going, what you're going to do when you get there, and how you're going to get there. Meet with your stakeholders. That's very important. Consider your enrollment projections. That's very important. You want to make sure you have the correct staffing at all of your schools. Make sure you have the adequate amount of teachers for the amount of students that are enrolled at each school in each grade level. Principals will talk with principals that are feeder schools. schools that are students that will move from the middle school to the high school and from the elementary school to the middle school, that we need to know those numbers. The start time, you can always start planning sooner than later. And immediately after the audit, that's when you start working on your budget. Fund balance, some facts to consider. The fund balance is referred to as a reserve, accumulation of revenue expenditures. It's not a bank or cash balance. And based on the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officer Association, recommends a reserve of 5 to 15% or 2 months of operating expenditures in your fund balance. A healthy fund balance, it prepares for significant emergency or unanticipated expenditures, flexibility for non-recurrent discretionary funding needs, cover potential shortfalls in revenue due to unforeseen circumstances such as budget cuts, and carefully monitor, cash flow throughout the year because of the property taxes. They generally start being received around the first part of the year. So you have to be very careful from that stretch from July to December. Try to be mindful of your expenditures because the majority of your tax revenue will start coming in around the first of the year. Also, when working on your budget, you need to compare to other districts. High or low income, your student population, is it growing or is it shrinking? Which is very important, which relates to Power School. We have to make sure that those numbers are accurate. Those absences and presence are put in the system. That information is then sent to the State Department. And our funding is based on that student count. It's very important. Age of our buildings. Do we have older buildings? Do we have newer buildings? Sometimes with older buildings, you may have more maintenance issues, more problems. So you have to be mindful of those types of things. You want us to be proactive rather than reactive. Be mindful of your tax base. Be mindful of your millage. Is it expect to increase or will it remain the same? Exceptional learning population. Again, that is based off revenue as well. Make sure we have those numbers correct. We receive funding for those exceptional learning populations and our bond debt. Final thoughts when working on your budget: plan. Communicate with key staff. Communication is very key. Finance needs to know what's going on because at the end of the day, it comes through our office, so we need to know what's going on. We don't want to have any surprises. We want to have communication. Things that we should do, things we should not be doing. Or if there's a better way that we can get this taken care of, we just need to make sure we have communication. Communication with the board, communication with our superintendent, communication all the way around. Understand our district and community. We've been having collaborative meetings where the district needs to know what's going on with the county. The county needs to know what's going on with the district as well as the city so that we're all on the same page. And we want to trust that the right thing will be done. Any questions as it relates to the budget orientation and the budget process? Okay, we'll move right along. Finance report. I do apologize, Mr. Thomas. Thank you for pointing that out. Didn't realize that the percentages were chopped off on the expenditure report. The ideal percentage is at 41%, and we're currently at 51%. So we're at 10% above the ideal percentage that is based on where we're at now with our calendar. And unfortunately, we've been cutting a lot of trees tonight. We do apologize for that. I do have some information that I need to give to you all tonight. It relates to our board priorities. We actually emailed that information to you as well, so you'll have an electronic copy. The forms will state we're requesting 3 priorities that you would like for us to consider working on the budget for the new school year. Again, sorry for giving you all a bunch of handouts on tonight, but this information is very needed. So
3 priorities.
What's today's date?
Today's the 3rd.
Third.
When do you need it by?
As soon as possible, but we understand you're busy, but we would like to have it as soon as possible.
Yeah, by the 7th is what you need here.
All right.
And of course, if you don't want to fill out the handwritten, we emailed it so you can actually submit it in your email. There's a form, you can fill it out, and once you fill it out, we'll receive it that way. So that may be the fastest option for you.
All right.
Any questions?
So, good. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. We have an update for Wallace, Mr. Bowen. Job tonight, boy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Coachman, board members, Dr. Tiller. I just want to give a brief update on our Wallace issue we got up there. But Hoffman Mechanical informed me today that they did confirm that they would receive the boilers by Friday of this week, the 7th of February. And in that time, they in process of getting everybody that they need. Like a factory rep, they'll have to actually be the one to start the boilers up. We don't want to take on that responsibility. So they in the process of getting all that stuff lined up in our Wallace. So hopefully next week they will start installing, getting everything up and going. So I'm not confirming that it's going to be up and going next week. I just want to make everybody aware that we in the process, thankfully for that. And I just want to make mention to Clio, we do have 2 units, one in the gym and one in the gym lobby, that we are addressing some issues on it and in the process of gathering our parts and pieces that we need to fix those. But in the gym, there are 2 units in the gym, but the one is not going to be as efficient as both units running. So that's where we are on that.
What's that unit run off of, the one in the gym in Nazian and Clio?
Sir?
It run off of gas?
No, it's electric.
It's electric?
Yes, sir.
So we're going to have to replace that one?
Yes, sir. Looking at probably replacement on that one.
So in the meantime, that's where it's been that cool at it. It's in the gym.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Do we have a timeline on getting one or getting?
We are in the process of getting that information together. Most of the time with train units, they mostly on your commercial side, they gonna be built to order. They just don't have them on the shelf. So once you get above 20 tons, they got to build them custom, kind of, so to speak, to what we need. Your voltage, your phaser, your power, and all that type of stuff.
That will take care of the hallway area and the gymnasium area there.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Another question. And this is not necessary for the update, but in the maintenance department, because we have priorities that we might want to fill out because the new budget year coming. Where do we have a shortfall in maintenance? Because I noticed a lot of things that we can't do.
Right.
Because we don't have trained staff to do it.
Right.
So what area?
Well, mostly in maintenance is your staff per se people. They 9 of us in staff, including myself. You got 1 person in each department. Well, with the exception of 2 in each HVAC. And I help out with that where I can. So, if we got something going on in Blenheim and we got an emergency in McCall, we got to pull this guy from Blenheim because I got 1 electrician. I got to pull him from Blenheim to send him to McCall. So that leaves Blenheim hanging. Well, not so to speak hanging, but we're going to get back to them too. But if we got an emergency, we need to get to McCall. We got to go to McCall, So in other words, we got 1 man in each department in maintenance. So I feel like, if we had 2 people, we could pair off, send 2, one school, 1 to another school,
So 2 electricians and 2 HVAC guys?
Got one electrician and two HVAC guys.
I mean, what would be the need? Two.
Two electricians, probably one more, add maybe one more electrician.
2 plumbers, 3 plumbers.
How many plumbers do we
Yeah,
have?
we need a bus load of plumbers. If we can make that happen.
Well, I can tell you this. That was one of my priorities with maintenance, so
Right.
I'm gonna put it on there and we'll go through the budget process. I can't promise you anybody.
Right.
But it will be a priority that we do talk about.
Yes, sir.
Because
Yes,
I
sir.
think that's important.
Good deal.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm just thinking, if we looking at CAPE program and teaching kids about, skills and jobs that they could go straight into plumbing or what have you. I'm not sure. I know that's not one of our programs, but I think that would be a great incentive to have those as programs. And so where we can't afford to pay staff, our kids are on the job learning as well. So
Correct.
that may be something we possibly can look into.
And there's a high demand for every trade that's out there. Heating and air, plumbing, electrical, everything.
Do we know what's wrong with the restrooms here? I know we had problems. I mean, do you know, like,
We've had some outside contractors working on that, and from what we can gather, it's still a work in progress because we don't obtain no drawings to kind of go back to for the high school. So we've been kind of working on at that in a slow motion. We've had the tank pumped and everything like that. So, but we still working on that. Chris Hardy's helped us out a lot on that too. So that's still a ongoing process.
Okay.
Any more questions from me?
No, we're good. Everybody good?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Till you got anything else?
No, sir.
Street got anything else?
We through. I got something.
Let me have it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Mr. Flower?
No.
You sweat?
no, sir. No, sir.
All in favor, let them know by raising your right hand. This meeting is now adjourned.
Got them questions off. Raise your hand.
Thank you much.